Beloved soul, when you wake each morning, your mind immediately begins to race through the countless demands of the world duties waiting for your attention. Fears creeping in from yesterday, restless ambitions stirring within your chest. And in that rush of thought and noise, you may forget the most essential truth. God is already here, silently dwelling within you, patiently waiting for you to remember His eternal presence. You may think that sensing God's nearness requires a lifetime of seeking, endless hours of complex practices, or journeys to distant holy places. But the divine mystery is far more intimate and immediate than that. With only a few breaths of devotion, with only a few whispered words spoken sincerely from the depths of your soul, the infinite can awaken in your heart like a sunrise dissolving the long night of forgetfulness. Today, I wish to share with you a sacred practice, a simple invocation that you can speak 3 times and feel God stirring within you. It is not magic. It is not a mechanical formula. It is a living bridge of vibration that, when uttered with deep sincerity and feeling, aligns your entire being with the silent presence of Spirit already dwelling inside you. For too long, humanity has searched for the divine in temples made of stone, in rituals performed with empty repetition, in promises of distant heavens beyond death, all the while neglecting the holy temple within the altar of the soul, where God waits patiently for our awakening gaze. What if you could step away from the noise of thought, peel back the heavy veil of ego and worry, and in only a moment feel the eternal breathing with you, loving you, guiding you? This is not a distant dream. This is your birthright as a child of the infinite. Words are vibrations, and when chosen carefully and spoken from the heart, they can do more than express meaning. They can summon divine consciousness into living experience. Spoken with attention and reverence, these words become a lamp that lights the dark corridors of the mind, revealing the luminous presence that has never left your side. In the next moments together, I will teach you not only the sacred phrase to speak, but also the art of speaking it with full spiritual magnetism, so that when you say it 3 times, it penetrates through layers of distraction and draws you into living communion with God. Before we do this, let us first understand why we so often fail to feel that presence. Not because God is far away, not because the soul is weak, but because the restless mind builds walls of noise that keep our awareness turned outward, away from the silent radiance within. Pause with me now. Take a slow, deep breath. Place your hand upon your heart and simply feel the life beating there. This life does not belong to you, it is Spirit pulsing through you, sustaining you in every moment. Even when you forget Him, God does not forget you. Even when you feel lost, He is the silent witness of your every thought and action, awaiting the moment you turn back toward Him. Let us take the first step toward that remembrance now, as we prepare to unveil the sacred invocation that will call your soul home to its eternal beloved. Beloved one, before you can fully grasp the power of the words I am about to give you, you must understand the divine science hidden within sound and vibration. Since the dawn of creation, every movement of spirit into matter has occurred through vibration. In the beginning was the Word, says the Holy Scripture, and in that single sentence lies the mystery of why spoken words, charged with feeling and devotion, can awaken divine presence within you. Every sound carries energy. Every word is a current of consciousness that can uplift or disturb the soul. When a word is spoken with clarity and spiritual intention, it aligns you with the higher frequencies of the infinite. This is why ancient sages and mystics have always taught the power of prayer, mantra, and affirmation not as superstition, not as empty chants, but as living streams of divine force. Each time you repeat a sacred word with faith, you are not merely uttering syllables into the air. You are striking the inner strings of your own soul, causing it to vibrate in harmony with the divine. Just as a tuning fork, when struck, can cause another tuning fork nearby to sing the same note without being touched, so do these holy words awaken dormant spiritual frequencies within you, bringing your awareness into resonance with God's own consciousness. Yogananda often spoke of how even a single thought infused with divine remembrance can magnetize the soul towards Spirit. When you gather your scattered attention and focus it through words of love and surrender, you create a beam of energy strong enough to pierce through layers of mental noise. The mind quiets, the heart opens, and the Spirit, which was always present, is suddenly felt not as an abstract belief, but as living, breathing reality. This is the true purpose of divine speech, not to convince God to come to you, but to clear away the fog of forgetfulness so that you can feel His eternal nearness. But you must speak not with the cold repetition of intellect. Words only possess spiritual power when they are wrapped in the warmth of devotion, when they flow from the still center of your being rather than from the restless surface of thought. Whispered from the heart, they rise like incense, ascending through every layer of your consciousness until they merge with the very vibration of spirit. It is in this sacred merging that you begin to feel God softly at first, like a faint fragrance of peace, and then fully, like a radiant presence filling your entire being with love and light. So let us prepare to use this spiritual science wisely. In the coming moments, I will share with you the sacred invocation itself, a phrase so simple yet so profound that when spoken 3 times with full awareness, it can quiet your mind and open the doorway to divine communion. But first, let us understand the obstacle that often prevents seekers from feeling this presence, the veil of restlessness that keeps their awareness outwardly bound. Beloved, imagine for a moment that your mind is a tranquil lake, still and luminous, reflecting perfectly the radiant light of the moon above. In such stillness, divine presence is easily seen and felt, for spirit is as ever-present as the moon shining in the night sky. Yet for most souls, this lake of consciousness is rarely still. Winds of worry and storms of thought ripple across its surface, scattering reflections into distorted fragments. Waves of anxiety crash against its shores, currents of memory and desire churn beneath, and what was once a mirror for spirit becomes a restless sea where divine light is scarcely visible. This restlessness is not unique to you. It is the common plight of humanity. From the moment we awaken each day, countless impressions from the world demand our attention. The mind begins to run like a wild horse, chasing one thought after another, some fearful, some hopeful, some rooted in past regrets or future imaginings. Amid this ceaseless clamor, how can the still, subtle voice of spirit be heard? God speaks not in thunderous proclamations, but in the quiet whisper of intuition, the gentle fragrance of peace, the soft radiance of joy that dawns in silence. And here is where the sacred power of spoken invocation becomes a divine remedy. Words charged with devotion act as calming ripples sent out upon the stormy waters of the mind. With each repetition of a holy phrase, mental noise is hushed, emotions are soothed, and attention is drawn inward toward the heart, where spirit has been waiting patiently. Spoken prayers are not meant to shout into heaven hoping God will hear. They are meant to awaken the divine presence that already dwells in the sanctuary of your soul. When you speak a phrase of surrender and love, you are not merely expressing belief, you are reshaping vibration itself. Imagine a bell rung 3 times in a silent temple. With each chime, the lingering sound resonates longer, filling every corner with stillness. Similarly, when you repeat a sacred invocation 3 times, it moves through the layers of body, mind, and soul, anchoring you fully in the awareness of spirit. The first repetition stills your physical senses. The second soothes the restless mind, and the third draws your soul into direct communion with God's presence. So, beloved, do not despair if you have long sought God but felt only silence. The silence was not absence, it was the divine waiting for you to still your own noise long enough to listen. In a few moments, I will share with you the very phrase that can help you pierce this veil of restlessness. But before we speak it aloud together, let us understand its meaning deeply. For only a phrase understood in heart and soul can summon the transformative power it carries. Beloved soul, the sacred phrase I am about to share with you is not complex. For divine truth is never hidden in elaborate words. It is hidden only by our forgetfulness of who we are. The phrase is a key, not to persuade God to appear, but to unlock the inner door you have unknowingly kept closed through restlessness and outward wandering. When spoken with sincerity and stillness, it opens the gate to direct divine remembrance. The phrase is this: Beloved Spirit, I am thine. Reveal thyself in me. Let us pause and let these words settle deep within us. Beloved Spirit, with these opening words, you acknowledge God not as a distant ruler or abstract concept, but as the closest, most intimate presence in your life. Spirit is not foreign to you. It is your very breath, your silent companion through every joy and sorrow. When you say beloved, you awaken love within yourself, and love is the bridge that unites the soul with God. I am thine. These words are a surrender, a release of the false belief that you are separate, alone, or bound by egoic will. In this moment of affirmation, you place your entire being into the hands of the infinite, like a wave returning to the ocean from which it came. With every repetition, this surrender deepens, until you no longer merely speak the words, you become the truth they express. Reveal thyself in me. This final part is not a demand, it is a gentle invitation, a humble opening of the soul to the light that has always been present. It is as though you are lifting the veil from your own eyes and saying, Beloved, I know you are here, yet I have forgotten. Come, awaken my memory, shine through me so that I may live not as this small self, but as a radiant expression of your eternal spirit. Now understand this well. Speaking this phrase once can awaken a spark, but speaking it 3 times with full awareness ignites a fire. The first time, your body relaxes. The second time, your mind becomes still. And the third time, your soul resonates fully with divine remembrance. Spoken with devotion, this triple repetition is like knocking 3 times on the door of heaven, not to plead for entry, but to remind yourself that you were never locked out to begin with. Beloved, prepare yourself now, for we shall soon say these words together. I will guide you through each repetition, first to quiet your body, then to open your heart, and finally to merge your consciousness with the presence of God. Before we speak, take a slow, deep breath, and know that with these simple, heartfelt words, you are about to step across the threshold into direct communion with the Beloved who has always been within you. Beloved soul, let us now enter the sacred space of practice. Straighten your spine gently as though a golden thread were drawing you upward. Place your hands softly upon your lap or over your heart, and close your eyes to the outer world so that the inner world of spirit may begin to glow brighter. Take a deep, slow breath and feel it as divine life flowing through you. As you exhale, imagine every worry, every distraction, every weight of the past melting away like mist beneath the rising sun. Now we begin the first repetition of this holy invocation, whose purpose is to still the body and quiet the senses, making you receptive to divine presence. Open your heart and softly whisper, Beloved Spirit, I am thine. Reveal thyself in me. Speak these words as though you are gently knocking on the door of your own soul, patiently and reverently. After speaking, pause in silence and notice the subtle calm settling over you. Your shoulders soften, your breath becomes more natural, and the restlessness of the body begins to dissolve. Feel this phrase anchoring you in stillness, like a tree sending roots deep into the earth. Whisper it again if you feel called, but remember that this first repetition is not about effort, it is about relaxing into God's presence. Like a child laying its head upon the lap of the Divine Mother, you simply rest in trust, knowing that you are held and safe. Allow the silence following these words to embrace you, for even now, in this calm, the presence of Spirit is stirring, gently brushing away layers of forgetfulness. Take another slow, deep breath. Feel the weight of your body grounding into peace, the racing of thoughts beginning to subside, and the soft radiance of divine life moving through you. This is the first step, beloved, to still the outer self so that the inner light may begin to shine unobstructed. In a moment, we shall move to the second repetition, where the power of these words will awaken the heart and draw you closer to the living presence of God dwelling within. Beloved one, now that the first whisper has stilled the senses and anchored your body in peace, let us take a deeper step into the temple of the heart. Close your eyes more fully, as though turning away from all worlds outside and entering the silent sanctuary within. Lift your gaze gently toward the spiritual eye, the divine point between your eyebrows, and place your right hand softly over your heart. Feel its steady rhythm not only as a beat of flesh and blood, but as the echo of spirit pulsing through your being. Take a long, slow inhale, as if you are drawing divine light directly into your chest. Hold this breath tenderly, and in that sacred pause, feel the longing of your soul rising like a fragrant offering toward the Beloved. Now, with deep devotion, speak again these holy words. Beloved Spirit, I am thine. Reveal thyself in me. This time, do not merely whisper. Let your voice carry a tone of yearning, of love calling to love, of the child seeking its eternal parent. As the words leave your lips, imagine them becoming rays of light, flowing upward from your heart and reaching toward the infinite skies of spirit. With each syllable, feel warmth blooming in your chest, a gentle flame awakening, a flame not of this earth but of divine presence, glowing brighter with each repetition. Pause after speaking. Feel how the invocation lingers, like a bell whose chime continues to vibrate long after it is struck. In this silent resonance, the barrier between you and God begins to thin. The heaviness of separation melts away, and a sweetness, subtle yet unmistakable, begins to fill the heart. It is as though invisible arms are drawing you inward, as though the beloved has heard and is already stepping forth from the hidden sanctuary within. Breathe slowly and stay with this warmth. Let your hand over your heart remind you that God has always lived here, not as a distant deity, but as your very life force, as your constant companion in every moment. This second repetition has opened the inner gate. It has called forth divine presence like a fragrance released by a blossoming flower. And now, beloved, we are ready to take the final, most profound step, the third repetition, where the words will no longer feel as though you are calling to God, but as though God Himself is speaking through you, merging your soul completely into His eternal light. Beloved, now we come to the final repetition, the sacred moment when the veil of separation can dissolve completely, and you may feel, not merely believe, that God has always been one with you. Straighten your spine just a little more, like a divine column of light rising through the center of your being. Let your shoulders fall into total surrender, and lift your gaze upward, silently inviting the infinite heavens to open within you. Take a slow, deep inhale and hold it softly. In this stillness, imagine that your small self, the restless mind, the anxious heart, the heavy past is melting away like a drop of water returning to the ocean. When you speak this time, you will not be calling out to a distant presence. You will be letting that presence speak through you, as you, within you. Whisper now, slowly, with reverence, "Beloved Spirit, I am thine. Reveal thyself in me." Feel how the words no longer travel outward but resonate like a cosmic bell within every cell of your being. Your breath feels lighter, your body luminous, your awareness vast and unbound. A gentle warmth may spread upward from your chest to your face, or a still sweetness may descend like a soft, divine breeze. Whatever you feel, know that this is the touch of Spirit, the eternal friend who has never been absent. Remain silent for a moment now. Allow these vibrations to settle into every layer of your consciousness. Sense how time begins to lose its grip, how the edges of your thoughts soften, and how a profound peace silently radiates from a source deeper than the mind could ever reach. This is the inner temple opening. This is your soul beginning to remember itself as a spark of the infinite light. Beloved, when you speak this phrase 3 times with full awareness, it is not a ritual, it is a return. It is the soul knocking upon the gate of heaven, only to discover the gate was never locked. God was not waiting to arrive from afar. He was waiting for you to remember that His eternal home has always been within you. Stay in this stillness for as long as you wish. Breathe softly and inwardly affirm, "I am not a seeker. I am the one who has been found. I am not a beggar for love. I am love itself, shining as a child of Spirit." Carry this remembrance into every moment of your day, and know that any time you feel distant or lost, you can speak these words again, and heaven will open within you once more. Beloved soul, now that we have spoken this invocation 3 times and opened the inner door to divine remembrance, let us dwell for a moment upon the signs that reveal God's presence within you. These signs are not always grand visions or celestial voices. Often, they are soft, subtle shifts within the sanctuary of your heart, gentle whispers of Spirit, letting you know that the infinite has drawn near, or rather, that you have finally turned inward to behold what has always been there. One sign is a profound and unshakable peace that begins to spread through your being. The racing thoughts that once clouded your mind fall silent, not by force, but by the calming touch of divine light. This peace is not the absence of sound or movement in the outer world. It is an inner stillness, a sense of being held in eternal safety no matter what storms may rage outside. When you feel this peace arise spontaneously after prayer or repetition of sacred words, know that it is the gentle presence of God stirring within your soul. Another sign is a subtle yet radiant joy, uncaused by any outer circumstance. It may feel like a quiet bubbling of happiness in your chest, or a sudden lift in your spirit as though unseen wings are carrying you upward. This joy is not loud or fleeting, it is soft, like sunlight breaking through clouds, and it leaves behind a sweetness that lingers long after the words have been spoken. There may also come a deepened clarity of intuition. When divine presence fills you, answers to life's struggles arise naturally from within, as if whispered by an unseen friend who knows you better than you know yourself. Choices once clouded by confusion become clear, and you feel gently guided toward higher actions, not by logic alone, but by a knowing that flows from the depths of spirit. And perhaps the most sacred sign of all is love, pure, unconditional, expansive. When the presence of God awakens in you, love pours forth effortlessly, embracing not just those you are close to, but even those who may have caused you pain. In this divine remembrance, all beings are seen as rays of the same light, and your heart cannot help but shine toward them as a silent blessing. Beloved, these are the divine footprints left behind as spirit walks through your consciousness. Treasure them, for they are not accidents or passing emotions. They are glimpses of your true nature as a spark of the infinite flame. With each repetition of this sacred phrase, these signs will become more vivid, more lasting, until one day you no longer need words to feel God. You will carry His presence within you as naturally as you carry your own breath. Beloved one, the sacred words we have spoken are not meant to be isolated moments of inspiration that fade as quickly as they come. They are a divine key, meant to be used each day until the door they open remains forever ajar, and the radiant presence of Spirit becomes your constant companion. To truly receive the fullness of this practice, you must weave it into the very fabric of your daily life, until every breath you take is an unspoken prayer, and every step you walk is upon the holy ground of divine remembrance. Begin each morning not by rushing into the noise of the world, but by sitting quietly with spine straight and heart lifted to the infinite. Before the mind has a chance to scatter into countless directions, let the first sound upon your lips be this holy phrase: Beloved Spirit, I am thine. Reveal thyself in me. Speak it once to awaken the body to stillness, again to draw the heart into devotion, and a third time to merge your awareness with God's eternal presence. Then, remain silent for a few moments, simply feeling the vibration of those words resonating through you like the lingering chime of a temple bell. This quiet beginning will color the rest of your day with divine light. Throughout the day, you will face distractions, challenges, and moments of forgetfulness. But know this: you are never truly separated from Spirit. In the midst of a busy street, in the quiet of your room, during moments of joy or sorrow, you can silently repeat these words and feel their calming power immediately. Whisper inwardly, Beloved Spirit, I am thine. Feel how even in the noise of life, a circle of stillness surrounds you, reminding you that God is nearer than breath, closer than your very heartbeat. At night, before sleep, return once more to this sacred invocation. Speak it softly 3 times, allowing the weight of the day to melt into the divine hands of the Eternal. Imagine that as you drift into sleep, your soul is being carried upward on a stream of light, gently resting in the silent presence of Spirit throughout the night. This practice not only brings peace to your mind but also transforms your subconscious, planting seeds of divine remembrance that will blossom in your dreams and awakenings alike. Beloved, over time, something extraordinary will begin to happen. The words will no longer feel like something you are saying. They will feel as though they are being spoken by God Himself within you. You will sense that the phrase is not a prayer of longing, but a statement of truth, a declaration of the eternal unity that has always been. The need for repetition will fade, for you will live in the very presence you once sought. This is the hidden power of devotion made simple. With only a few words, spoken with sincerity and repeated with reverence, you will come to know what countless souls have missed while chasing the divine in distant places. God was here all along, silently waiting to reveal Himself in you. Beloved soul, now that you have learned how to speak these holy words and integrate them into every breath of your life, let us seal this sacred practice with a blessing that will accompany you long after these words fade from your ears. Close your eyes once more and lift your heart to the infinite, as though you are turning your face toward an unseen sun that has been shining upon you since before the dawn of time. Take a deep, slow inhale and silently affirm within, I am not a seeker of God, I am already united with God. Hold this breath gently, feeling that this truth has always been alive within you, even when your mind forgot. As you exhale, whisper softly, "In spirit, I live forever in love, in peace, in divine presence." Let your shoulders relax and feel a river of light flowing through you, washing away the last veils of separation, leaving only radiant stillness behind. Beloved, imagine now that you are surrounded by a sphere of golden light, luminous and warm. This is not imagination alone. It is the aura of divine grace awakened through your devotion. Within this light, no fear can dwell, no doubt can take root. Here, in this radiant silence, the eternal Father-Mother whispers to you, "Child of light, I have never left you. In every breath you breathe, I breathe. In every step you take, I walk with you. In every thought of love, it is my own love shining through you." Carry this blessing into your days and nights. Let every moment become an opportunity to repeat the holy phrase out of need, but out of joyful remembrance. Beloved Spirit, I am thine. Reveal thyself in me. When you speak it, know that you are not calling upon a distant presence, but awakening the divine flame that has always burned within you. Speak it when you rise in the morning, when challenges test your heart, when joy fills your spirit, and when sleep draws near. Each repetition will weave you ever closer into the embrace of the infinite, until you no longer feel the boundary between your soul and God's eternal light. Now, take one final breath with me. Inhale the golden light of spirit. Hold it as though you are holding eternity itself, and exhale slowly into the vast stillness where divine love abides. Whisper silently, "Forever and always, I am thine." Go forth now in peace, beloved one, knowing that you walk not alone but hand in hand with the divine. This presence will guide you, protect you, and lift you beyond every shadow into the radiant joy of spirit, where you have always belonged and will belong forevermore. Before you move toward any great decision in life, before you say yes, before you walk away, before you commit or decline or speak, there must be a holy pause. Not a delay born of fear, but a stillness born of remembrance. For I tell you this, the most dangerous decisions are not made in ignorance. They are made in forgetfulness. Forgetfulness of who you are. Forgetfulness of the soul within you. Forgetfulness of the divine that stands ever ready to guide your every step, not through shouting, but through vibration. The ego acts from reaction. The soul responds from alignment. And the difference between those two postures is not small. It is the difference between karma and liberation, between peace and regret, between destiny deferred and destiny fulfilled. I have seen many seekers cry out for God's guidance when faced with a fork in the road, and yet they rush to choose before remembering where true choice begins, not in circumstance, but in consciousness. You are not a beggar of fate, wandering aimlessly through a chaotic world, hoping to make the right call. You are a child of light, encoded with divine intelligence, designed to move in harmony with the infinite when you remember who you are. A decision made from fear, from pressure, from the compulsions of others, from the momentum of your past is not a decision. It is an escape disguised as progress. But a decision made from soul, from calm awareness, from anchored clarity, that is a spiritual act. That is sacred movement. So I ask you now, how do you decide? Do you decide from the weight of your history, from the voice of anxiety, from the expectations of others? Or do you decide from the eternal center within the space untouched by time, the place in you that has always been still? Before you make any decision, you must return there. You must realign your inner compass and hold it steady, because a compass spinning in the hand of a restless man will never show the way. Only when it is still, only when the hand pauses in reverence, does the needle point true. And so it is with you. The beginning of every wise choice is not in gathering more data, or seeking more opinions, or creating elaborate pro and con lists. No. The beginning of every wise choice is in coming back to identity. Not the identity shaped by years, or stories, or success, or trauma, but the identity given to you by God. That is the only self that can choose rightly. That is the only vibration capable of hearing divine instruction. Let me speak plainly. Your clarity is not missing. It is simply buried beneath noise, beneath movement, beneath the belief that decisions must be made quickly to be strong, or logically to be right. But the greatest strength is spiritual stillness. And the greatest clarity is not found, it is remembered. So let us begin there. Before we speak of phrases or rituals or practices, let us pause and return to the soul. Sit upright now. Close your eyes. Bring one hand to your chest. Breathe deeply. And with your inner gaze lifted gently, peacefully say within, I am not a servant of pressure. I am not a slave to fear. I am the soul. I am the child of light. I choose only from remembrance. Stay here for a moment. Let that vibration settle. Let it peel away the tension. Let it silence the mental chatter. Let it soften the grip of urgency. And let it welcome in the one who has always known what you are meant to do, not with maps, not with timelines, but with peace. Every decision from this point forward must begin here. In remembrance, in stillness, in soul identity. For from this inner place, all outer steps become sacred. There is a reason that so many of life's biggest decisions, despite our best efforts, despite our searching and analyzing and striving, lead not to peace, but to exhaustion. It is because most decisions, even the ones we think we've thought through carefully, are made not from truth but from tension, from a vibration of reaction, from a place of separation. And I tell you plainly, when a decision is born from anxiety, from the hunger to escape or fix or prove, it cannot carry the current of divine intelligence. It may look wise on the outside. It may appear impressive, practical, or socially acceptable. But if the seed of the choice was planted in fear, then the fruit will carry that same frequency. And no fruit that grows in fear can nourish the soul. Most people do not realize that decision-making is not just a mental event, it is a spiritual act. Every choice you make becomes a declaration of who you believe yourself to be in that moment. When you choose from fear, you declare to the universe, I am not safe. I am not guided. I must control this outcome on my own. When you choose from pressure, you say, I must act quickly or I will lose something essential. But these are not decisions made in the soul's language. These are decisions made in the tongue of the ego, and they speak only to survival, not to surrender. The ego has many disguises when it makes decisions. Sometimes it speaks as urgency, sometimes as logic, sometimes as perfectionism, sometimes as a voice that says, if you don't do this now, you'll miss your chance. But urgency is not a sign of wisdom. Urgency is a signal that your inner field is clouded, that you have stepped out of alignment and are trying to fix your discomfort with action, rather than first healing your vibration. Consider this. A man is standing in the middle of a violent storm, trying to plant seeds. He digs frantically, pouring energy into the ground, convinced that if he works fast enough, he'll create the harvest he needs. But the wind rips at his coat, the rain soaks the soil, the thunder shakes the trees, and he wonders why nothing will grow. He blames the soil, he blames the seed, but the real issue is not the seed, it is the storm. And the same is true for you. When your inner world is in chaos, when your breath is tight and your energy frantic, when your mind is swirling and your heart is closed, no decision you plan in that moment can bloom into peace. The storm must be stilled first. This is why so many spiritual missteps do not begin in ignorance. They begin in vibrational misalignment, a job accepted from fear, a relationship entered from loneliness, a move made to escape pain rather than to follow peace. And later, the seeker wonders, why does it not feel right? It does not feel right because it was not chosen from your light. It was chosen from your shadow. This is why I say, never trust a decision made in restlessness. Never trust a path chosen in panic. If the decision arises from your lower self, it will bind you. But if it arises from your divine center, it will free you. Yogananda taught, decisions should come not from the emotional mind, but from the calm, intuitive perception of the soul. And how do you know if the soul is speaking? Because its guidance is quiet, spacious, and unhurried. It does not pressure, it does not persuade. It simply knows. So breathe now. Let the weight of your past decisions fall away, not with regret, but with understanding. You are not being punished. You are being invited into a higher way. The next time you face a choice that feels heavy, fast, or full of static, ask yourself, where is this decision coming from? Am I choosing from fear or from remembrance? That one question can save you years of wandering. Let us speak it together now, not as critique, but as commitment. I no longer decide from fear. I no longer choose from pressure. I wait for peace. I wait for the signal of God within. Because a decision made without God's peace is not a decision, it is a detour. And your soul was not sent here to detour. It was sent to align. And to align, you must first be still. In the still and watchful universe, nothing truly moves without vibration. Every action, every word, every decision is not merely a behavior, it is a transmission, a frequency, a wave of energy that moves from your consciousness into the fabric of creation, where it is received, amplified, and returned to you as experience. This is not poetic mysticism, it is divine law. And when you understand that every decision is a vibration first and an action second, your entire life begins to shift from striving to alignment. When you choose from fear, the vibration of that fear wraps itself around your choice, and the universe reflects back circumstances that confirm your original panic. When you choose from peace, the vibration of calm assurance weaves into the outcome itself, and your path becomes smooth, not because of outer conditions, but because your own inner field has been cleared. This is the law of spiritual action. It is not the outer motion that determines your future, it is the inner frequency from which you move. Yogananda said, "Right action comes from right feeling comes from right thought comes from stillness." Look carefully at this divine sequence. It does not begin with doing. It begins with being, with vibration. The soul does not chase outcomes. The soul emits light. And that light, invisible though it may be to the eyes, alters reality from within. That is why the highest discipline of the yogi is not constant action, it is constant attunement. When your vibration is right, the action is clear. When the vibration is wrong, even the most logical choice will feel hollow. And so, before acting, before deciding, before speaking, pause. Not because delay is always spiritual, but because vibration must be aligned. You do not build temples during an earthquake. You do not try to fix the outer world while your inner world is shaking. You wait for stillness. You wait for the quake to subside. You wait for peace to return. And then you move, not because you must, but because the moment itself has become ripe. Let me give you an image. Imagine you are standing by a quiet pond. You hold a stone in your hand, your decision. If the water is agitated, full of ripples and wind, the stone will drop in and its impact will be lost in the chaos. But if you wait until the surface becomes still, the moment the stone enters, it creates a perfect, ripple-clean, expansive, harmonious. That is what your decision becomes when it is dropped into the still pond of your spirit. It creates coherent movement. It creates a wave of clarity that touches every part of your life. But if the inner water is turbulent, no decision can be trusted. You may ask, but how do I know when the vibration is right? You will know because there will be no tension in your body, no racing in your breath, no tightness in your heart. You will feel a calm, knowing, not excited, not desperate, just certain. You will feel no resistance to waiting. You will feel no grasping for guarantees. You will feel only readiness and peace. And from that peace, the decision will make itself known. So now I invite you to speak a vow, not to me, but to your own soul. I do not move in chaos. I do not act from fear. I align before I decide. I return to stillness before I take the step. For once you begin to live by vibration, you no longer seek answers, you become them. You no longer chase certainty, you radiate it. You no longer beg for signs, you are the signal. And that, beloved, is spiritual maturity. Not more action, but right vibration before action. There is a mystical intelligence woven into the fabric of your being, a divine architecture that responds not to logic alone, but to repetition charged with intention. And when you speak a sacred phrase, not once, not twice, but 3 times, you do more than affirm an idea. You alter the layers of your consciousness. You pass the vibration through the thresholds of mind, heart, and soul. For the number 3 is not random. It is a spiritual pattern, a divine triad, a metaphysical rhythm etched into the design of the universe. Father, Son, and Holy Ghost. Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva. Thought, word, and action. Creation, preservation, transformation. And when you repeat a phrase 3 times with reverence, you align your inner world with that sacred symmetry. Let me reveal to you what happens, vibrationally, when you speak a sacred phrase in triplicate. The first time you say it, you are clearing the surface, removing the static of the mind, piercing through the layers of distraction, dissolving the clamor of thought. You are not yet deep, but you are preparing the soil. The first repetition is the knocking. The soul stirs. The second time, you drop into the heart. The breath slows. The emotions respond. The phrase now begins to resonate in your chest not as concept, but as living current. You feel its peace. You begin to remember something older than thought. This is the opening of the gate. The third timia, this is where the phrase passes from repetition into revelation. It enters the superconscious realm. It pierces beyond memory, beyond conditioning, beyond identity. It lands in the soul, and from there, it radiates out into every layer of your aura, every cell of your being, every dimension of your life. This is no longer prayer, it is activation. And from that vibration, decisions made will carry the seed of divine clarity. This is why I say, do not speak casually when facing a crossroads. Do not let your words be scattered or rushed. The sacred phrase is not a superstition. It is a spiritual device, a tuning fork for your soul. And when it is used with awareness and rhythm, it calibrates your inner world to receive divine guidance, a note from fear, not from emotion, but from the light within. Metaphorically, it is like striking a great bell. The first strike wakes the surface. The second brings resonance. The third releases the full harmonic wave that touches all the unseen. That vibration continues long after the bell is silent, and so it is with you. After the third repetition, the phrase continues to work beneath awareness, shaping your decision from the inside out. But there is another reason to speak it 3 times. Not just to activate divine layers, but to teach the ego to surrender. For the ego often resists divine instruction. It doubts the whisper. It demands proof. It wants to rush. But when you speak with devotion 3 times, the ego's grip loosens. It becomes quieter. It listens. It remembers it is not in charge. So, do not underestimate this practice. When the moment comes, when the decision feels urgent, when the mind is spinning, when the stakes feel high, pause. Breathe. Then speak the phrase not once, but 3 times. And in that act, you create sacred space. You slow time. You elevate vibration. You open the door that was always waiting for you to knock. Let us do it now, not with voice, but with full presence. First, beloved God, not my will, but thy wisdom through me. I choose light. Second, beloved God, not my will, but thy wisdom through me. I choose light. Third, beloved God, not my will, but thy wisdom through me. I choose light. Now sit, feel. Do not reach for the answer. Let the vibration answer for you. For when you speak with sincerity, repetition becomes revelation. And in that revelation, the next step will not be guessed. It will be given. There is a moment, just before a decision is made, when the soul leans forward. It is not visible to the eyes. The body may be still, the voice may be quiet, the surroundings unchanged, but inwardly, the soul holds its breath. It is the moment when eternity waits on your choice. Not because God will punish you for choosing wrong, but because the very vibration you carry into your choice will determine the field of your future. And in that moment, there must be a phrase not of panic, not of pleading, but of power and surrender, clarity and remembrance, softness and certainty. A phrase not born from the intellect, but forged in the fire of divine knowing. I offer you now such a phrase, not as dogma, not as rule, but as sacred tool, a vessel of living vibration, a mantra that carries within it the capacity to break ego's grip and invite divine presence into the most human of acts. Choosing, beloved God, not my will, but thy wisdom through me. I choose light. Say it slowly. Let each word ring like a temple bell through the chambers of your soul. Beloved God. This is not the language of formality. This is intimacy. You are not addressing a distant ruler. You are speaking to the infinite as your companion, your lover, your innermost self. You are calling not upon the idea of God, but upon the felt presence of the divine, here and now. In saying, beloved, You remind yourself that you are not separate from that which guides. You are loved. You are known. You are remembered. And the one who made you will not withhold the clarity you seek. Not my will. Here is the letting go. Not of responsibility, but of control. Not of discernment, but of domination. In these words, you release the frantic grip of the ego, the obsession with being right, the fear of being wrong. You surrender not your intelligence, but your insistence. You bow not in weakness, but in spiritual elegance. You say, I know my perspective is limited. I know my vision is shaped by time. I release the need to force the outcome. This is the emptying that prepares the soul to receive. But thy wisdom through me. This is not passive resignation. This is active alignment. You are not asking God to override you. You are inviting God to move through you. You are declaring that the same intelligence that spins galaxies and designs seasons can now express itself through your words, your choices, your path. You become the flute, God becomes the breath. And from that union, harmony is born. No longer is the decision yours alone, it is shared with the infinite. I choose light. This is the anchoring, the final note. You affirm that your standard is not convenience, not validation, not escape, but light. You are not choosing based on fear or fantasy. You are choosing based on vibration. Light means peace. Light means truth. Light means alignment with the higher frequency of your soul. In saying this, you call upon the divine field around you to organize itself according to that frequency. You choose not just a path, you choose a state of being. Now, to activate the full spiritual current of this phrase, you must marry it with breath. This is how spirit enters speech. This is how the word becomes a vehicle of power. Before each repetition, inhale slowly through the nose. Let the breath rise through the spine, as though lifting your awareness to the point between the eyebrows. Then, as you exhale through the mouth or softly through the nose, let the phrase be spoken not loudly, but with reverence, as though each word is a key unlocking a gate within. Try it now with me. Inhale. Beloved God, not my will, but thy wisdom through me. I choose light. Inhale again. Beloved God, not my will, but thy wisdom through me. I choose light. One more breath. Beloved God, not my will, but thy wisdom through me. I choose light. Now rest. Let the vibrations settle. The decision does not need to rush forward. You have prepared the field. You have watered the roots. You have invited the light. What comes next will no longer be tainted with confusion, but guided by a current greater than mind. This phrase is not magic. It is not manipulation. It is magnetism drawing you back to the posture of spiritual clarity, reminding you that all wisdom begins not in thinking harder, but in bowing deeper. Say this phrase before every big decision. Make it a ritual, a habit, a sacred doorway. For every choice becomes holy when spoken from the vibration of surrender, from the remembrance that you were never meant to decide alone. Most of the world lives unaware of energy not because it is absent, but because it is subtle. And yet, it is energy that shapes your life more than any word spoken aloud or action performed. Energy is the signature behind all things, the unseen fragrance that tells the universe who you believe yourself to be in any given moment. When you speak a sacred phrase, especially one spoken with reverence and repetition, you are not merely forming sentences. You are shifting your vibrational field. You are invoking a realignment of currents that run from your breath, through your spine, into the heart of God's listening stillness. And the moment you say, Beloved God, not my will, but thy wisdom through me, I choose light, 3 times with devotion, something extraordinary begins to occur not externally at first, but within the sanctuary of your subtle being. First, your energy field begins to purify. This does not mean that all confusion instantly vanishes, or that the external dilemma disappears. But the clutter that clings to the aurath static of doubt, the residue of fear, the tension of overthinking begins to dissolve. Like fog slowly lifting from a lake at dawn, the phrase begins to clear the surface, not by force, but by frequency. The phrase is light, and light does not argue with darkness. It simply replaces it. Next, there is an effect on the chakras, especially the heart and the spiritual eye. The heart center, often contracted in moments of decision, begins to expand. Why? Because you have surrendered will to wisdom, you have declared peace over panic. And that expansion of the heart allows divine intelligence to flow more freely through you, not as thought, but as inner knowing. At the same time, the vibration activates the Ajna chakra, the point between the eyebrows, often referred to as the spiritual eye. This center, when magnetized by reverence and lifted attention, becomes a receiver for superconscious insight. You don't just think better, you see more clearly. You don't just weigh options, you feel divine direction. And then, something deeper happens. The vibration opens the inner door of intuition. Not the intuition that arises from past experience, but the higher faculty knowing that comes from God contact. Yogananda taught that intuition is the soul's power to know God. It is not imagination. It is not desire. It is the purest form of knowing untainted by logic, untethered from emotion. And when you say the phrase 3 times, slowly, sincerely, your energy becomes receptive. You shift from being the one trying to find the way to becoming the one who is shown the way. This shift does not always come with a bolt of lightning. Often it is gentle, quiet. You finish the 3rd repetition, and suddenly the pressure you felt 5 minutes earlier softens. The anxiety you mistook for urgency vanishes. You feel no more need to rush, no more craving for signs. Only a subtle, luminous assurance that either the answer is now known or that it will arrive in perfect time without your interference. This, beloved, is not indecision. This is divine timing revealing itself through your calm surrender. The mind will say, but nothing has changed. Oh, but everything has. Because your frequency has changed, and frequency is the architect of experience. From the moment your vibration lifts, the world begins rearranging around it. Circumstances shift, opportunities align, the right people appear. But most importantly, you become aligned with the you who is already walking in clarity. Let me give you an image. Imagine your life as a great room, filled with doorways. Some doors are locked, others lead to shadows. But in the center of the room is a radiant passage that leads to your highest path. That doorway, however, is invisible to the hurried eye. But when you say the sacred phrase, it's as if you raise the lights. The hidden door begins to glow. You still must walk through it, but now you can see it. That is the gift of vibrational realignment, not escape from the decision, but illumination of the divine option already waiting. So the next time you finish speaking the phrase, do not ask, what should I do? Ask, what do I feel now? Feel your breath. Feel the peace. Feel the subtle shift. That shift is the green light. That inner stillness is the true confirmation. Do not look outside for signs. The sign has already arisen within you. Repeat after me now. If your heart feels ready, when I speak from peace, I act from wisdom. When I lift my vibration, clarity follows. When I choose light, the path becomes visible. Let this be your new understanding. The phrase does not bring you answers. It brings you into the vibration where answers can find you. Even after speaking the sacred phrase, even after breathing deeply, even after returning to the soul's vibration, there may come a time when the decision still feels unclear. Do not be troubled by this. Do not think that something has gone wrong. For the spiritual path is not a vending machine of instant answers, it is a relationship of divine timing. And sometimes, the very act of not receiving clarity is the clearest instruction of all. Wait. Wait not as avoidance, but as wisdom. Wait not because you fear the choice, but because you revere the vibration from which the choice must arise. One of the greatest illusions that pulls the seeker into error is the belief that decisions must be made on demand. The pressure of time, the voice of culture, the inner unrest all push us toward premature action. But the soul does not rush. It does not force. It waits for ripeness, for the alignment of inner peace and outer opportunity. Just as fruit must ripen on the tree before it can nourish, so must your decisions be born in stillness before they can bear the fruit of peace. So how do you know when you are not yet ready to decide? You look not to your thoughts, but to your frequency. If you feel pressure, pause. Pressure is not the voice of God. Pressure is the residue of ego, the heat of fear disguised as urgency. It says, act now or something bad will happen. But the divine never speaks in panic. It speaks in peace. If your body is tense, if your breath is shallow, if your mind is racing to control the future, pause. If you feel fear, wait. Not because fear is wrong, but because it clouds perception. Fear contracts your aura. It closes the intuitive channel. A decision made in fear is like trying to see the horizon while submerged in water. You may move, but you will not see. Fear shrinks your light. And when your light is dim, your vision is distorted. The solution is not to fight the fear but to breathe, to return to the phrase, to lift the gaze, to remember that no divine instruction ever arises from dread. If you speak the sacred phrase 3 times, with sincerity and still no clarity comes, reflect deeper. It may be that the timing is not yet aligned. It may be that a lesson still needs to unfold. It may be that your vibration is not yet calm enough to receive. This is not punishment. This is protection. Divine delay is not God withholding love. It is God extending grace so that you do not walk into something half-formed and call it destiny. Let me say this again for your soul to hear. Delay is not denial. Delay is divine orchestration waiting for your readiness to match your request. Yogananda once said, "In the stillness, the voice of God is loudest." That means if you do not hear clearly, the answer is not to shout louder. It is to become more still. Still in thought, still in breath, still in motive, still in attachment. In that deep interior quiet, the voice that was always there begins to resonate as a thunderclap, but as a knowing without explanation. A peace that needs no validation. So ask yourself this sacred question before acting. Do I feel rushed? Do I feel afraid? Do I feel heavy? If the answer to any is yes, pause. Return to breath, return to prayer, return to light. Do not fear missing out. What is meant for you cannot pass you by when you stand in God's timing. Let this be your vow, spoken inwardly, as a spiritual contract. I will not choose from fear. I will not move from pressure. I will wait for the stillness that confirms the truth. I will trust the pause as much as I trust the yes. Because sometimes, beloved, the clearest answer you can receive is silence. And in that silence, something sacred is being prepared. Not just a path, but you. True clarity is not an accident. It is not a rare moment granted only to the few, nor is it a mysterious force that descends at random. Clarity is a practice, a cultivated atmosphere of the soul. Just as the body must be trained to move with grace and strength, so the spirit must be trained to respond with discernment and alignment. And the most sacred way to build that inner habit is not by waiting for crises to arise, but by meeting each day with a ritual of remembrance, a quiet, reverent space where the soul is invited to speak before the mind resumes its dominance. If you will spend just a few minutes each morning tuning your energy, aligning your breath, and anchoring your awareness in light, then when the big decisions come, they inevitably will, you will not scramble to find clarity. You will already be walking in it. This daily practice need not be long. It need not be complex. It simply must be sincere. Let it become as natural as brushing your teeth or rising from sleep. Let it be your inner sunrise. Before the phone is touched, before the world enters, before the mind starts solving, just sit, upright, in dignity and reverence, not slouched in lethargy, not in performance, but in devotion. Let the body become a temple, posture, spine tall, like the central pillar of a cathedral, shoulders relaxed, heart lifted as though preparing to receive sacred wine. This is not just a position, it is a declaration to the universe. I begin my day in alignment with the divine. Now place one hand gently over your heart. Feel it, not symbolically, but literally. Feel the warmth beneath your palm. Feel the beat of your life. This is the altar of your soul. This is where the whisper begins. Then lift your gazanot with strain, but with gracado, the point between the eyebrows. The spiritual eye, the Ajna chakra. Let your attention settle there like dew on a lotus petal. This upward gaze signals to the body, to the mind, and to the cosmos. I am ready to receive from the highest. Now, take a slow inhale through your nose, count to 4. Let the breath rise like light through your spine. Hold for a moment in stillness. Then exhale, gently count to 6s, though offering your breath back to God. Do this 3 times. This is not just calming the body, it is clearing the field. It is resetting your frequency. It is softening the static of yesterday, so today can begin not from memory, but from miracle. Then speak the sacred phrase, "Beloved God, not my will, but thy wisdom through me. I choose light." Say it 3 times, slowly, with presence, with feeling. Let it be different each time, first for the mind, second for the heart, third for the soul. You are not trying to manifest. You are not begging. You are aligning. You are calibrating the compass before taking a single step into the day. And now, stillness. Just 1 minute. Sit in silence. Let the phrase echo. Let the breath find its own rhythm. Let the eyes remain lifted gently inward. This is the space where intuition awakens not with noise, but with knowing. Perhaps no answer will arise. That is fine. What matters is the field you have. Entered a field where decisions are made not from pressure, but from peace. Where direction is not forced, but received. When this ritual is done, do not rush into action. Let your first few steps of the day be gentle. Let your speech be slow. Let your energy move with dignity. You are carrying the afterglow of the divine. You are walking as a soul who knows they are not alone. And from this posture, when the moment of choice arrives, whether in conversation, in planning, in emotion, you will already be in the posture of the answer. Do this daily, not just in crisis. Make it a spiritual discipline, for over time your soul's voice will grow louder. The body will learn how to follow peace. The ego will soften its grip. And clarity will no longer be something you seek, it will become your resting vibration. Repeat this now, as a commitment. Each day I return to the light. Each day I choose alignment before action. Each day I prepare my heart to hear the voice of God. And so you will no longer fear the future. Because the future will be built not by reaction, but by ritualized remembrance. Now that the soul has been stilled, the breath deepened, and the sacred phrase spoken with reverence, we move into the most transformative phase of inner reprogramming, the affirmation loop. This is not mere repetition. It is not surface-level positivity, nor a mental chant meant to convince the intellect. No, this is a spiritual installation, a declaration sent deep into the subconscious, deeper still into the superconscious, where it seeds a new identity, not of personality, but of divine function. You are no longer simply someone who wants to choose rightly. You become the one who does because you are attuned, surrendered, and aligned. This loop anchors that identity not through thought alone, but through body, breath, and spiritual gaze. Let your posture now be upright. Your spine is the altar. Your chest is the temple lamp. Your breath the incense. Place your hand again over your heart, not as gesture, but as anchoring. Feel your own presence. Feel that you are not imagining clarity, you are inhabiting it. Now lift your gaze softly to the spiritual eye, not with strain, but with devotion, with longing, with trust. Feel your breath move easily, like wind through tall grass. And begin the loop, phrase by phrase. Let each one rise like a sunbeam through the fog of confusion. Let it melt the mind's resistance. Let it return you to the throne of your own soul. I do not react. I do not rush. I decide from God's center within me. Let the first repetition be for the body. Speak it gently, slowly. Feel your shoulders soften. Let the breath slow further. Let the nervous system relax. You are teaching the body that movement will no longer be driven by fear. You are training the temple to become still enough to hear instruction from the infinite. I do not react. I do not rush. I decide from God's center within me. Let the second repetition be for the heart. Feel the words land not as commands, but as truth remembered. You are not a creature of chaos. You are a child of divine rhythm. Let the phrase settle behind the ribs. Let it dissolve emotional noise. You are not late. You are not lost. You are not alone. You are instructed from within. I do not react. I do not rush. I decide from God's center within me. Now the third. This is for the soul. Let it be a breathless whisper. Let it be a vow. Let it rise through the spiritual eye and enter the field of light that surrounds you. In this moment, you are not just someone who listens for clarity. You are someone who is clarity. The decision you seek is not external. It has already begun to bloom within you. Feel the silence now. Don't move. Just breathe. Let the vibration echo beyond the words. You have told the world who you are now. More importantly, you have told yourself. And that self is no longer reactive, no longer addicted to speed, no longer dominated by fear. That self is still, wise, anchored, radiant. That self does not panic under pressure. That self waits until the vibration speaks. That self chooses not for approval, not for safety, not for perfection, but for alignment. This is identity installation. This is how you become the one you've been seeking. This is how spiritual wisdom is not just remembered in crisis, but lived in every breath. Speak the full loop 3 more times now, if you feel ready. Not as a performance, as a practice, as a holy setting of your inner compass. I do not react. I do not rush. I decide from God's center within me. I do not react. I do not rush. I decide from God's center within me. I do not react. I do not rush. I decide from God's center within me. And when you open your eyes, the world will not have changed, but you will have changed within it. And from that change, every decision to come will carry the fragrance of your stillness. Now, beloved soul, we arrive at the closing out and end, but a sealing, a sacred completion, the final breath in this temple of remembrance you have been building within you over the last many minutes. You have been called back to the source of clarity. You have listened, breathed, surrendered, spoken. You have aligned your vibration with light. But there is one final instruction I must give, not for your mind to analyze, but for your spirit to carry into every action that follows. It is this: let every choice you make be a prayer. Let every decision, large or small, be treated not as a transaction with the world, but as a holy communion with the divine. For each time you choose, you are not just moving through life, you are shaping the inner signature of your soul's vibration. When you choose from peace, you invite God to walk with you. When you choose from fear, you step forward alone. Every decision is a mirror reflecting not just what you want, but who you believe yourself to be. And when the soul stands in reverence before each choice, when it asks, "What would light do through me in this moment?" that is no longer mere decision. That is devotional movement. That is the path of the awakened one. That is yoga in action, not only on a mat, not only in meditation, but in the very way you move through time. The sages of every age did not make their lives divine by accident. They made every action into an offering. Every word was weighed in the light of truth. Every step was chosen in silence first. And that is your invitation now. Not to obsess over right and wrong, not to agonize over outcomes, but to choose with God. To let the decision itself become a form of worship, a gesture of union, an echo of remembrance. And so, the next time a choice arises, before you act, before you explain, before you calculate, say this inwardly: before I choose, I return to light. Not as ritual only, but as reset. You return to the vibration you prepared in stillness. You return to the breath you practiced in devotion. You return to the phrase you planted in your heart. This one line, whispered gently before you act, will carry the full memory of this sacred teaching forward. It is the flame you now carry into your daily life. Let your decisions be your new prayer beads. Let your silence be your new compass. Let your alignment be your new confidence. And let your peace be your new proof, not that you made the right decision, but that you made the decision from the right place. And now, as the closing seal of this transmission, I invite you not with pressure, but with love to plant your vow in the field of collective resonance. Comment it below. Speak it aloud. Write it on the altar of your breath. I decide from stillness. I choose from light. Not once. Not just when you're uncertain, but always. Let that be the soil you live from. And now, I offer you this final blessing. Receive it as if the words come not from a voice in the world, but from the divine within you, the one who has never stopped guiding, the one who has never stopped loving, the one who has waited for your remembrance. May no decision take you from your peace. May no outcome define your worth. May every choice bring you closer to the light that made you. May you never again decide from fear. May you always choose from the still, clear center of the God within you. This is your path now, not just of good choices, but of sacred ones. And in that sacredness, your whole life becomes a prayer. And in that prayer, God walks with you. Always. There are moments in this life when the sky seems silent, when prayer feels like a whisper into a void, and when the soul begins to wonder if God is gone. In these moments, the human heart trembles. It aches. It contracts into isolation. We look at our pain and believe it to be evidence of divine abandonment. We say, if God were with me, why would I suffer so? But I tell you now, from the depths of spiritual realization, your suffering is not proof of divine absence. It is a doorway to divine nearness if only you would learn to enter it rightly. What if your hardship was not a punishment, but a preparation? What if the breaking of your plans was the opening of your spirit? Just as the seed must split in darkness before it becomes a flower, so too must the soul often break through its shell of illusion before it blooms into truth. The pain you feel is not the absence of God, it is the absence of your own remembrance. And in this forgetting, God waits, patient, loving, watching. Not to impose rescue from above, but to awaken light from within. In truth, beloved, hard times are not divine rejection. They are divine initiation. Life was never meant to remain smooth. If it did, the soul would stagnate in comfort and never reach for its source. The trials that press upon you now, the uncertainty, the fear, the loss, the silence, they are not here to destroy you. They are here to call you deeper. To shake you out of mental habit and force your spirit to lift its eyes upward and say, even through tears, I still believe. Yogananda taught that the darkest night is often the prelude to the brightest dawn, not because the night vanishes quickly, but because in the depth of night, the soul becomes still. And in that stillness, we remember, not by intellect, not by theory, but by presence. That still, small flame inside, once buried under ego and noise, flickers in the wind of hardship. And if you listen not with your ears, but with your inner gaze, you will hear not absence, but invitation. Do not let your suffering convince you that you are unloved. The very fact that you are here, listening, seeking, breathing is evidence that the divine has never stopped calling you. Every cry you have offered in silence has been received. Every tremble of your faith has been felt. But the miracle you seek will not enter through fear. It will not come through panic or begging. It will come when you remember. You are not alone in the darkness. You are being watched by the light. Let me offer you an image. A mother watches her child learn to walk. The child falls, stumbles, looks up with tears. The mother does not run to catch them each time. Why? Because the child must learn. Because the strength must be awakened. Because to walk in truth, the child must learn to rise. Not only be lifted, but the mother's eyes never leave. Her presence is always there. So it is with God. In the hard times, you are not forsaken. You are becoming. Speak with me now, not just with words, but with soul. This is not the end. This is not the punishment. This is the awakening. God is not gone. I am returning to him. Hard times do not close the heavens. They open the soul. They tear the veil. They remind you, you were never meant to walk alone. It is a truth known by saints and seekers alike. In our deepest moments of despair, we turn to prayer. We plead. We beg. We cry out into the night, hoping the heavens will shake, hoping the silence will break. Yet how many of these prayers feel unanswered? How many times have you whispered through tears, God, why won't you help me? And in that silence, the soul begins to ache with the unbearable weight of distance. But listen closely now, beloved. It is not that God is not hearing you, it is that you are not hearing him, because your prayer has not yet become a vibration he can respond to. In hard times, most prayers are not truly prayers, they are emotional surges dressed in spiritual language. They come not from deep stillness, but from panic. They do not rise from the calm knowing of the soul, but from the frantic trembling of the ego. We cry, help me! But inside we feel only fear. And fear, no matter how sincere, does not carry the frequency of faith. It is not a sin to fear, but fear is not the channel through which miracles flow. As long as your prayer is soaked in the vibration of desperation, it cannot rise to the divine like incense from the inner altar. It remains earthbound, heavy, circling, repeating itself without breakthrough. Yogananda said, God does not respond to words, he responds to vibration. You may shout, but if your vibration is chaos, it will not align with the frequency of the answer. You may whisper, but if your whisper is calm and full of faith, it may move mountains unseen. You see, God is not moved by the intensity of your volume, he is moved by the alignment of your vibration. Prayer is not about convincing God to act. It is about tuning your inner radio to the station where his voice already speaks. Let me give you an image. Imagine you are holding a radio, trying to tune into a sacred frequency, but your hand is shaking, your heart is racing. Static fills the signal. No matter how many times you turn the dial, the sound comes distorted. That is how prayer in fear feels to the soul. The divine is broadcasting always, but your internal static is blocking the reception. Only when your hand steadies, only when your inner world calms, can the message come through clear. Only then does the transmission of grace begin. So how do we pray when life is falling apart? How do we cry out without collapsing into lower vibration? The answer is not to force calmness, but to begin shifting from fear into devotional frequency. Even if the body shakes, even if the voice cracks, you must gather your will and speak not just in hope, but in remembrance. Not from lack, but from alignment. You speak from the part of you that already knows the miracle is possible, even if unseen. That is the shift. That is when the prayer begins to work. It is not how long you pray. It is not how beautiful your words are. It is the state of your being in the moment the prayer is released. A single phrase spoken from stillness and surrender is more powerful than hours of repetition from panic. Your voice becomes the instrument. Your breath becomes the carrier. Your heart becomes the altar. And the words you speak become the vibration that invites the infinite to move through the finite. Let us speak now, not from fear, but from the frequency where miracles are born. Close your eyes, lift your gaze gently, and say within, I release the panic. I release the begging. I tune my soul to the signal of faith. I will not shout to be heard. I will become the vibration that is heard. God is not waiting to be impressed. He is waiting for you to remember who you are. Prayer is not persuasion, it is alignment. Speak from the light, and the light will answer. The world speaks of miracles as if they were exceptions rare, magical events defying the laws of nature, bestowed only upon the chosen few. We imagine miracles as lightning strikes of divine favoritism, unpredictable and unrepeatable, granted only in moments of sheer desperation. But I tell you now, from the silence where God speaks to those who listen, a miracle is not the suspension of divine law, it is the fulfillment of a higher law. It is not disorder, it is divine order reasserting itself in a world clouded by lower vibration. In truth, a miracle is not unnatural. It is supernatural, it belongs to the higher octave of God's reality. What you call a miracle is simply the natural outcome when the soul aligns with divine frequency. The laws of spirit are not bound by the laws of matter. The laws of light are not limited by what your eyes can see. And when your vibration lifts through stillness, through trust, through sacred speech, you rise into a layer of reality where grace flows freely. This is not manipulation. This is not emotional bargaining. This is the deepest kind of remembering, that you are already a being of light, and that light obeys laws greater than fear, greater than karma, greater than time. Yogananda said, miracles are materializations of your faith, not mere faith in outcomes, but faith in vibration. Faith in the invisible current of God flowing through your breath, your will, your words. When your faith becomes so anchored in the divine that the doubt within you dissolves, then what seemed impossible begins to shift. Not because you forced the shift, but because you aligned with it. Because the soul became a vessel open enough, steady enough, radiant enough for divine intelligence to move through. That is the miracle. Miracles do not bypass karma. They transcend its weight. Sometimes the stone must still fall, but through divine awareness, it falls on the river, not the skull. Sometimes the storm must still come, but through inner alignment, the storm passes through you like wind through a tree rooted in God. The suffering may not vanish, but the fear does. And when fear is gone, the soul is free. And when the soul is free, the miracle is not only possible, it is inevitable. The greatest miracle is not always what changes outside you. The greatest miracle is what transforms within you. It is the shift from fear to peace, from despair to devotion, from panic to presence. When that inner shift happens, the outer world cannot help but respond. Reality rearranges itself around the new vibration you carry. Your aura becomes magnetic to solutions. The closed doors begin to creak open. What seemed delayed begins to approach. This is not chance. This is divine law made visible. Let me offer you a vision. Imagine a sun hidden behind a wall of fog. The sun has never stopped shining, but you, standing in the fog, cannot feel its warmth. You shout to the sky, "Why have you abandoned me?" But the sun waits, not offended, not impatient, just shining, until the wind of divine remembrance begins to move through you. The fog begins to part, and the warmth you feared lost was always there. You were simply beneath the vibration where it could reach you. This is the nature of a miracle. It is not God changing his mind, it is you changing your frequency. So speak not to escape your hardship. Speak to transcend its vibration. Speak not to twist God's hand. Speak to open your own heart. The miracle is not something you earn. It is something you remember. You are not reaching for a gift. You are returning to a state where the gift has always waited. Say this now, with your breath slow and your gaze lifted. I do not beg for a miracle. I become the vessel through which the miracle flows. I do not escape the law. I rise into the higher law. My soul vibrates with the frequency of divine solution. You are not hoping for the impossible. You are aligning with the inevitable. The miracle is not proof of God's presence. It is the reflection of your remembrance. In the ancient science of yoga, we are taught that the universe was not built with hands, it was spoken into existence through vibration. The word, the aum, the primordial sound, was not sound as we know it, it was the living breath of God, moving into form. Everything you see, everything you feel, every object and every moment, all of it, is vibration condensed, shaped, and echoed from that original cosmic utterance. And so, when you speak, especially in times of hardship, you are not merely using language to express emotion. You are using vibration to reshape reality. In crisis, most of us speak from pain, from complaint, from fear. Our words tremble with uncertainty, and we speak as if our voice has no power. But what if I told you, your voice is a spiritual instrument, and when used with intention and faith, it can awaken forces far beyond what the intellect can imagine? What if I told you that every syllable carries weight, and that when spoken with reverence and clarity, your words do not just travel outward, they reverberate inward, realigning your body, your energy, and your spiritual destiny? Yogananda said, "Words saturated with sincerity, conviction, faith, and intuition are like bombs, which when set off, shatter the rocks of difficulties and create the change desired." But note the condition. These are not words muttered in mental fog. These are words ignited by spiritual presence, words spoken from the center of stillness, not the chaos of fear. Words that are breathed from a soul that knows, even in its pain, that it was born of divine light. The repetition of a sacred phrase 3 times is not ritual for ritual's sake. It is an ancient method of activation. The first time you speak it, it touches the mind. It begins to calm the noise, to refocus your thought pattern. The second time, it enters the emotional layer of your being. It begins to shift the currents of feeling, to dissolve the contraction in the heart. And the third time it drops into the superconscious, that quiet chamber of divine remembrance where your soul meets the infinite. In this threefold action, a tuning fork is struck not once, but 3 times, and with each strike, your inner temple vibrates more fully with the sound of God. Consider this. In music, a single note struck once fades quickly. But if struck again and again, in precise rhythm, it begins to resonate, to fill the space with harmonics, to awaken deeper tones that were previously dormant. So it is with sacred speech. You are not simply repeating. You are layering vibration, harmonizing with higher realities. You are not trying to get God's attention. You are aligning with God's presence, which has never left you. This is why it matters how you speak in times of crisis. Your tone, your breath, your posture, they are not trivial. They are the vessel through which power flows. If you speak while slumped in despair, the energy contracts. If you speak with chest lifted, breath steady, gaze gently raised to the spiritual eye, you invite the divine current to move through you. You become not a victim crying out, but a soul commanding light with holy authority. You become the bell that rings through the chaos and says, "Let there be peace here, now." And so I say to you, guard your words in crisis as you would guard sacred fire. Let them be few, let them be true, let them be spoken not from fear, but from the remembrance of your origin. You were not born in panic, you were born in light, and that light is never far from your breath. Now breathe with me. Let the breath slow, let the spine rise. Let your gaze lift not with tension, but with devotion, and speak within. My voice is a sacred current. My breath is a divine bridge. My words are the vessels of God's light. I speak now not as fear, but as presence. Speak the truth not to survive, but to realign. Speak not from darkness, but into it, with the authority of one who was sent to bring light. Now that we have uncovered the sacred principle behind speech, the vibrational law that governs divine alignment, let me offer you the phrase note as a mantra to be recited mechanically, but as a vibrational lifeline, given not by intellect, but by spiritual remembrance. When the walls feel like they are closing in, when the breath shortens and the mind spins in loops of worry, when everything around you feels uncertain and fragile, say this: Om Guru, I am held, I am not alone. Say it not once, not hurried, not from panic. Say it 3 times, with breath, with presence, with reverence. Let us examine why this simple utterance, spoken from your center, opens the gateway to the miraculous. First, Om, the primal sound, the sacred syllable that vibrates through every atom of creation. Om is not merely a chant, it is the doorway to the infinite. When you speak Aum, you are not addressing a distant deity, you are activating the divine within. It is the cosmic password that calls your soul into awareness. It is the vibration through which all things were created and to which all things return. To begin with, Om is to begin in alignment. Then, Guru, the dispeller of darkness, the guide both human and divine, the bridge between your delusion and your destiny. The Guru is not merely a person, it is the living consciousness of God expressing through one who has awakened. To invoke Guru is to surrender to divine guidance. You are not begging to be rescued. You are acknowledging, I am guided, I am seen, I am being led, even now. And then comes the heart of the affirmation, I am held. These words, when spoken not as hope but as truth, shift the vibration of your entire nervous system. In the chaos of suffering, the body contracts, the breath retreats, the aura weakens. But when you declare, I am held, your being begins to remember its source. You release the illusion of abandonment. You reject the lie that you are unsupported. You anchor in the knowing that even when all else falls away, God's embrace remains. Finally, I am not alone. These words may sound simple, but in the depth of pain, they are revolutionary. Loneliness is one of Maya's cruelest illusions. It tells you that you suffer in isolation. But in truth, the soul is never alone, not for a moment. The moment you say this phrase, with awareness, you awaken the field of divine presence. You activate the remembrance that angels surround you, that the Guru watches silently, that the light within has never flickered out. You are never alone. You never have been. When spoken together, Aum Guru, I am held, I am not alone, becomes not just a prayer, but a spiritual reset. Each repetition shifts your vibration higher. The first time, the mind begins to settle. The second time, the heart begins to soften. The third time, the soul steps forward. But do not simply say it rightly. Sit upright, let the spine become a temple. Lift your gaze not in strain, but in remembrance to the spiritual eye. Place one hand gently on your heart, the other resting palm up on your lap, in surrender. Inhale slowly, to the count of 4. Exhale deeply, to the count of 6. And then speak the phrase, Om Guru, I am held, I am not alone. Om Guru, I am held, I am not alone. Om Guru, I am held, I am not alone. Then fall into silence. Let the vibration continue. Let it ripple through the subtle bodies. Let it echo into the field, and walk from that silence as one who knows they are carried. This phrase is not to be chanted endlessly like a charm. It is to be spoken with sacred intention in moments when the world forgets you and the soul begins to remember itself. Speak it in the hallway of hospitals. Speak it at the edge of your bed in the middle of the night. Speak it when the door closes and you feel forgotten. Speak it when the mind cannot see how you will go on. Speak it 3 times and listen. The silence after the 3rd time is not empty, it is full of God. Say it now, with me, slowly. Let it be your prayer. Let it be your power. Om Guru, I am held. I am not alone. Om Guru, I am held. I am not alone. Om Guru, I am held. I am not alone. This is not a plea. It is a return. And the miracle is already moving. When the sacred phrase is spoken not with fear, but with inner surrender, it begins to act not just on your mind, but on the very fabric of your energetic being. It is not the words alone that carry the power. It is the state of consciousness you bring to them, and the spiritual science behind how they move through you. Most people think of miracles as things that happen outside the money that appears, the illness that disappears, the door that opens. But the deeper miracle, the true miracle, is what changes within your vibration the moment you speak in truth. The first repetition of the phrase, Aum Guru, I am held, I am not alone, begins the descent from the mind's chaos into the stillness of the body. This is the level of the intellect, where thoughts race and panic disguises itself as control. But as soon as you speak, the phrase becomes like a tuning fork that quiets the static. It says to your mind, you are not in charge. Peace is now entering. Your breath lengthens. Your shoulders drop. The thinking slows. This is the first level, the stilling of the mental storm. The second repetition moves deeper. It begins to vibrate in the emotional center, the heart chakra, the anahata. This is where fear tends to hide not as words, but as heaviness, grief, or inner tightness. When you speak the phrase again, you are not repeating in vain, you are guiding the vibration down into your emotional field. The phrase becomes like warm light moving through your chest, loosening the constriction, soothing the sorrow. You may feel tears, you may feel stillness. But always, the second repetition begins the miracle of opening. It reminds your heart, you are not abandoned. You are not without love. The current is returning. And then comes the third repetition, and this is the most sacred of all. It is here, if spoken with presence and devotion, that the phrase touches the superconscious, the inner temple where the soul resides in eternal stillness. This is the vibration beyond thought, and feeling it is the place of spiritual identity. When you speak the phrase the 3rd time, the soul says, yes, I remember. A subtle current rises up the spine. A tingling in the forehead or crown may appear, a sense of expansion without effort. You are no longer simply calming yourself. You are now communing. The phrase becomes not just a vibration, it becomes a spiritual axis, a center of gravity that reorganizes your inner universe. Around this phrase, your fear loses its grip. Around this phrase, your nervous system realigns to peace. Around this phrase, the karmic momentum begins to soften, as if even the unseen threads of past cause and effect pause to allow in grace. And this is not superstition. This is not wishful thinking. This is metaphysical law, set in motion through sacred sound, conscious breath, and devotional intention. Think of it like this. Before you speak, your inner world is like a room filled with dust, chaotic, unclear, scattered. But when the phrase is spoken, it is like the opening of a window. Fresh air enters, the dust begins to settle, and light begins to pour in from a higher realm. This is not imagination. It is energetic transformation. Your aura becomes calmer. Your heartbeat steadies. Your face relaxes. And in that stillness, the solution that seemed impossible becomes visible, not always immediately, but always inevitably. You will begin to notice something else too. The more often you speak this phrase with reverence, the faster the shift happens. The body begins to recognize the sacred signal. The nervous system responds more quickly. You build a vibrational reflex. And soon, the phrase is no longer something you say to find peace. It is something you say because you are already standing in peace. So I invite you now, once more, to sit upright. Breathe in gently. Let the breath touch the spine. Exhale with reverence. Place one hand on your heart and speak not just as a human in pain, but as a soul in remembrance. Om Guru, I am held. I am not alone. Om Guru, I am held. I am not alone. Om Guru, I am held. I am not alone. Now pause. Let the silence after the third repetition rise like mist. Feel it wrap around you. This is the moment the miracle begins. Not when the world changes, but when your vibration does. There are moments on the path when belief falters, when the weight of suffering clouds the remembrance of light. It is in these moments that we must not only feel truth, but witness it echoed in the lives of those who walk the path before us. Paramahansa Yogananda, whose consciousness merged with God through devotion, discipline, and divine ecstasy, left behind not only teachings but living proof, living vibrations of what happens when divine alignment meets earthly hardship. His life was not one of ease. His life was one of continuous surrender. And in that surrender, miracles flowed not as exceptions, but as natural responses to spiritual law activated in love and unwavering faith. I tell you now of a woman in India, a disciple of Yogananda, who was hemorrhaging, her body failing, her life force diminishing. The doctors were helpless. The prayers from fear had exhausted themselves. She turned to her guru, and Yogananda, in calmness not panic, not frenzy, looked upon her with divine stillness. He raised his hand, fixed his gaze at her spiritual eye, and said, "You are healed." There was no ritual. There was no lengthy chant. There was only alignment, this consciousness fully anchored in God, and the power of vibration transmitted through word and gaze. Within moments, the bleeding stopped. The color returned to her skin. The doctors stood in silence. What they called impossible had occurred. But Yogananda did not boast. He smiled gently and said, "God is the only healer." This was not magic. This was not spectacle. This was the operation of divine law, moving through one who had emptied himself of ego, who had become a flute for the breath of spirit to play through. This is what happens when vibration meets openness. This is what you are being invited in to note, to become a performer of miracles, but to become a receiver of them, a vessel through which the divine rhythm can flow unhindered. In another story, a devotee of Yogananda's was faced with destitution. The money had run out. The food was scarce. The anxiety had taken root. And instead of collapsing into despair, the devotee remembered the Guru's teachings. He sat down, closed his eyes, and repeated, "Om Guru, I am held. I am not alone." Again and again, he anchored into the vibration of stillness and trust, not to manipulate the universe, but to remind himself that he was part of it, that God knew his name. The next morning, a letter arrived unexpectedly with financial help from a long-lost friend. Coincidence? No. This was vibration made visible. The inner shift allowed the outer solution to appear. This was the miracle, not the money, but the trust that made room for it. And there was Yogananda himself, in his early years in America, walking into unfamiliar streets, misunderstood by the world, unsupported, often alone. There were moments when opposition rose, when discouragement threatened his mission, and yet he would go inward. He would lift his gaze. He would speak not just as a teacher, but as a child of the infinite. "Heavenly Father, thou art always with me." And without fail, the tides would shift. Support would come, doors would open. Not because he demanded, but because he remained unwavering in the vibration of surrender and trust. You see, miracles are not granted to the few. They are responded to law, by frequency, by resonance. Just as a radio picks up only the station it is tuned to, so too do our lives pick up the reality our soul is aligned with. These stories are not to make you idolize a saint, but to make you remember that the same light lives in you. The same breath of God moves in your chest. The same power that flowed through Yogananda's gaze now waits in your stillness. All that is required is your willingness to trust, not after things get better, but before. Not when the fear subsides, but when the fear is loud, and you choose to speak from light anyway. Say this now, not as imitation, but as initiation. The same light that healed through Yogananda lives in me. The same source that moved through the saints moves through me now. I do not need proof. I need presence. I do not wait for miracles. I become their doorway. You are not distant from those stories. You are the continuation of them. And if you remember who you are, the same miracles will follow your voice, as they followed his. The body forgets what the soul knows. This is the central struggle of spiritual life. In moments of clarity, you feel connected, luminous, supported, utterly filled with the breath of God. But when difficulty returns, the old patterns awaken, the shallow breath, the collapsed posture, the spiral of doubt. This is why practice is not optional. It is essential. Practice is not punishment. It is the sacred act of remembrance. And when the storm comes again, as it always will, you will not be reaching for your center in panic. You will already be seated in it. The purpose of a daily miracle vibration practice is not to make you worthy of grace, but to keep you in the current where grace already flows. Let me offer you a simple ritual, one you can do each morning, not to impress the divine, but to tune your instrument before the world begins to play upon it. Just as a musician must adjust each string before the concert, so too must the soul begin each day by anchoring in stillness, breath, and conscious vibration. When you make this your first act, you begin not as a beggar walking into uncertainty, but as a child of God stepping into alignment. Begin like this. Before your eyes open fully to the outer world, sit upright. Let the body become a temple. The spine must be straight, like the sacred altar within, where God and the soul meet in stillness. Gently close your eyes, not in withdrawal, but in devotion. Turn your gaze upward, toward the spiritual eye, the Christ center between the eyebrows. This is the inner sun. This is where divine knowing dawns. Let your breath slow, as if inviting eternity to enter. Inhale slowly to the count of 4. Hold briefly, and exhale deeply to the count of 6. Let your awareness drop into the breath. Let it become your doorway. Now, place one hand over your heart. This is the seat of your devotion and rest. Your other hand, palm up, on your lap, symbolizing surrender and openness to receive. Into this sacred posture, speak the phrase, Om Guru, I am held. I am not alone. Om Guru, I am held. I am not alone. Om Guru, I am held. I am not alone. Say it with full awareness. Let the first repetition quiet the mind. Let the second soften the heart. Let the third awaken the soul. Then, fall into silence. 1 minute. Breathe. Rest in the after vibration. No words, just presence. You are not empty. You are being filled. This short practicino, more than 5 minutes, becomes your daily miracle tuning. It is not the length, but the depth that matters. Do it before you touch your phone. Do it before you touch the world. Do it before the outer stories begin to write your day for you. This is how you train the nervous system to hold the vibration of spiritual confidence, so that when a wave of fear comes, you do not drown. You do not react. You return. And the returning becomes faster, and eventually, it is no longer a return. It is where you begin and end. You will find that after some time, the phrase itself begins to carry power, not just in the morning, but throughout the day. In the middle of traffic, in the hallway of an office, in the bathroom of your job, in the quiet moments when no one sees you but God. You will speak the phrase, and the body will remember. The breath will slow, the heart will soften, the miracle vibration will return. Because you have trained your temple to remember what the world always asks you to forget, that you are not alone. Speak this now with meno as a step in a ritual, but as a vow to yourself. Each day, I begin with stillness. Each breath, I return to light. My words are not a reaction, they are remembrance. I speak from the miracle before it appears. Make your mornings a consecration. Make your breath a devotion. Make your words the altar, where miracles come home. There are moments when the soul knows the truth, but the body forgets. When the intellect understands the teaching, but the heart trembles beneath old fears. In these moments, we do not need more explanation. We need affirmation, and not the shallow kind repeating words we don't believe in hopes they will someday feel true. No, We need words spoken from the depth of our inner altar, from the current of truth that lives beyond logic. Words that are not just said, but embodied. Words that do not convince the mind, they remind the soul. This is why we use affirmation loops not as mechanical chant, but as a spiritual technology. Repetition, when done consciously, does not dull the spirit, it sharpens it. Just as a river carves stone over time, so too does the soul carve away illusion through consistent truth. When you repeat an affirmation with breath, gaze, and embodiment, you are not forcing belief, you are installing remembrance. The loop becomes a sacred groove in your consciousness. And the more you walk it, the faster you return to the state where miracles are normal. Let this now be your loop of divine anchoring in hard times. Let it be your spiritual reset when the storm surrounds you. Let it be the breath you take when tears rise, when doubts shout, when the weight becomes too much to hold alone. Even now, God holds me. Even now, I am not abandoned. Even now, the miracle is moving. Each of these lines is a gate. Walk through them slowly. First, even now God holds me. Not after the problem is solved. Not once you feel better. Not later, even now. In this pain, in this confusion, in this sleepless night you are held. Not metaphorically, but energetically. Spiritually. You are suspended in the arms of a love that never releases its grip. Let the breath deepen as you speak it. Let your body receive the vibration, not just the idea. Second, even now, I am not abandoned. Because the great illusion of suffering is isolation. Maya whispers, you are alone, no one sees, no one helps. But that is not the voice of God. That is the voice of forgetfulness. When you say this line, you refute the illusion. You reclaim the truth, God is with me. The Guru watches silently. The divine presence is beside me, behind me, within me. Even now. Third, even now, the miracle is moving. Not when you see it, not when you understand it, but now beneath the surface, in the invisible realm, the divine is rearranging the threads. The solution is forming. The grace is flowing. It is not still. It is moving toward you even as you speak. You must say it until your nervous system believes it. You must say it until your cells remember it. You must say it until faith replaces fear. Speak this loop 3 times slowly, with breath, with presence. Let the words ride on the exhale. Let the heart rise to meet the rhythm. Place your right hand over your chest, your left hand open in your lap, and lift your gaze ever so slightly to the spiritual eye. Now repeat with me. Even now, God holds me. Even now, I am not abandoned. Even now, the miracle is moving. Again, even now, God holds me. Even now, I am not abandoned. Even now, the miracle is moving. And one more time, even now, God holds me. Even now, I am not abandoned. Even now, the miracle is moving. This loop is not for theory. It is for the moment of panic, the moment of despair, the moment when you forget who you are. It is for midnight and 3 a.m., in the middle of conversations, when you feel the weight press down. It is not a spell. It is a spiritual anchor. The more you use it, the more quickly you return to peace. Let this loop become part of you. Let it echo in the spine. Let it ring behind your breath. Let it sit in your chest like a seed of radiant stillness. You do not walk alone. The miracle does not delay. The moment you align, it arrives. One final time, breathe and speak. Even now, even now, even now. Say it until your heart answers. Yes, I know, I remember. And now, beloved soul, we come to the sacred self moment where truth is no longer a teaching, but a living presence inside you. You have walked through the remembrance of who you are. You have seen that suffering is not abandonment, but invitation. You have spoken the sacred phrase, not as superstition, but as spiritual alignment. You have tasted the power that arises when the soul begins to vibrate in the key of God. And now, in the trembling quiet of your own becoming, I offer you this, a blessing and a command. When the night feels long, say the phrase. When the breath grows shallow, say the phrase. When no one returns your calls, when the bills stack up, when the diagnosis arrives, when the heartbreak, say the phrase, not because it changes God, but because it changes you. Not because it guarantees an outcome, but because it restores your inner position before the throne of grace. You see, fear trembles when you speak from stillness. Darkness recedes when you stand in vibrational light. Maya collapses when the soul declares itself. So I tell you now, not as poetry, but as a spiritual law, speak the phrase until the darkness trembles. Not because you shout, not because you demand, but because you are no longer asking to be rescued. You are remembering that you are never unheld. Let this be your final ritual. Let it settle in your breath. Let it become your breath. Sit quietly now, wherever you are. Let the weight fall from your shoulders. Straighten your spine like a temple pillar. Lift your gaze gently to the Christ center, the spiritual eye. Place your hand upon your heart, not to feel emotion, but to awaken devotion. And speak with the quiet thunder of a soul that remembers. Om Guru, I am held. I am not alone. Om Guru, I am held. I am not alone. Om Guru, I am held. I am not alone. Now breathe. Not with effort, but with surrender. Inhale the silence. Exhale the fear. Let the phrase continue within, like a bell that rings after the striking stops. You are not reciting. You are declaring. You are not asking for proof. You are becoming the presence through which miracles walk. Now let me speak over you the closing blessing. May your darkest night reveal the brightest thread. May your voice carry the resonance of the infinite. May every tear water the roots of spiritual awakening. May you never forget that the phrase you carry is the key, and the key unlocks the kingdom within. The next time fear rises, do not plead. Do not panic. Say it again. Say it until your cells know. Say it until your voice no longer shakes. Om Guru, I am held. I am not alone. Om Guru, I am held. I am not alone. Om Guru, I am held. I am not alone. And when you rise from this practice, walk as one who is not waiting for miracles, but walking in their vibration. I invite you now to anchor your presence in this truth. Write it in the comments. Speak it aloud. Whisper it before sleep. Let it be the song that plays beneath your everyday steps. Even now, I am held. This is your mantra. This is your armor. This is your medicine. This is the light you carry into the dark. Say it, live it, become it, and watch as the miracle you seek recognizes the miracle you are.